You're now listening to Too Old for Excuses podcast.
Welcome to the Too Old for Excuses podcast. I'm Lee Valentin.
I'm Stuville.
And this is our story, man. Let's talk about how we started this podcast, right?
Well, it took a while to start it. We kept debating. We thought about like what would be a good idea for a podcast, and then we thought of something that's kind of unique to the both of us, and it was like that we started kind of the comedy journey, stand-up comedy journey in New York City, kind of at a later stage in life. So then that's where that came about. And then we were like, oh yeah, we're going to do it. And then we kind of kept making excuses as to why we're not going to do it. Like excuses came up like everybody has a podcast already. We're too old for this. Who's going to listen to it? And hence, it's like part of the name kind of goes with what was happening to us at that time, which was like, yo, we're too old for excuses. Let's just
do it, right? And the whole point of this podcast is we want to bring value to the people who are watching, listening. We want you to believe in yourself, no matter what age you are. If you want to start something creative, if you want to start something entrepreneurial, there's no better time than right now. You have the age, you have the experience, you have the know-how, and worst case scenario, you can just go back to doing whatever it is that you were doing prior to you taking the leap. And we're going to share stories of creatives and entrepreneurs who started past the age of 30, 35. I think 40 would probably be better, but anyone who started something creative or entrepreneurial past the age of 30, 35, and that will help you, the listener, viewer, get some encouragement, and take the leap and do it for yourself and see other people who have done it in different aspects of life at a later stage, and they're successful doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the scary part of you feel like you're alone, especially if you're venturing into something that, at least for us, like stand-up comedy generally is like it's a young people's thing. Like young people start in their 20s generally. So it is scary to find like other people that are your age, like, and usually the later you get in life, like the less peers you're gonna have doing something like this. Because most people are either tied down like marriage, kids, or they're making excuses, and it really that's what it is.
Right.
They use that as excuses to kind of keep them from actually going out and doing it. And I think, like you mentioned, the purpose of this is that people listen and they see stories of so many people that are actually making it happen, and then maybe that'll ignite something in you that you're like, oh wait, like if this person, like, yeah, why can't, doesn't have to be like in 1 week, 1 year, maybe it takes 2 years, but like at least you put the pieces in place to start getting you towards that.
Right. Yeah, and I don't want to give any false hope to the listeners either. We're not going to bring entrepreneurs who are making zillions of dollars.
Yeah, you're not going to see Jeff Bezos here.
We want to bring in regular, everyday people who are just like us, who decided to do something and are doing it and feel success. Because I think people they want to, sometimes you may see someone doing something who's like you, but you're like, I can never achieve that level of success, right? And that also becomes an excuse.
Yes.
Right. So you're like, this guy, invented something, and all of a sudden he's this big entrepreneur at the age of 35, and, he's making so much money. I could never do that. No, but we want to take the stories of regular, everyday people who are still working, who are still in the grind, or in the matrix, as some of my friends like to call it, and are also pursuing their creative goals.
Yeah.
So why don't we get into a little bit about your story first and how you got started in stand-up? Because you do so many things, by the way.
Yeah, I end up doing do many things, but none of them well. No. So my story is like I always had like a creative spirit, artistic spirit. Somehow like I majored in media and communications, and then somehow like trying to find a job, I ended up in healthcare, and then I was kind of working pretty much professionally in healthcare for a bit, and then the whole like trying to climb up the corporate ladder, like it just wasn't for me, and I got kind of like I don't want to say shitted on, but like situations where it was like when it was time for me to advance, like somehow I hit a roadblock, or there was an excuse, what I felt were excuses, because I feel like I did a good job at what I did.
You know what? I'm sorry to stop you, but you bring up a good point. Like some people think that at some point, you know, you go to school, you get the degree, you get into a corporate job, and then you climb that corporate ladder. But you said something interesting. You said you didn't want to climb the corporate ladder. And that's weird to hear me say, knowing you personally, because I know how hard you work and how much effort you put into everything you do. So what was it that at that point you said, you know, this is not for me? Maybe it's the getting turned away, but were you putting the same effort into the corporate as you are doing the creative thing?
Yes, I was. Yeah, like I started working with a company that I really enjoyed working at, and then a bigger company bought that company, and then it like dissolved, and then I had to find a new place to work. So that was a big shock.
Yeah, fuck that company.
Exactly. So I went to work for another company, and that company was hell. And then I switched and went to another company, and then in this company, I was like, you know, I was well regarded by the way I worked. So then when I asked like for a raise or after like 2 years and a half and a change in position, it's like they just gave me the runaround. Well, many people were like getting promoted, et cetera. And then I was like, eh. And then I told them I was quitting. They offered me like a lot more money, a managerial position. And then by that point, it was like my heart was just not in it. Like I thought about it and I was like, yeah. And then I said no to their offer of more money. And then I've been poor ever since, and struggling pretty much. But that's kind of what got me like back into the artistic world. And I took some time off. I got into like acting, which I wanted to do.
And at what age did you decide to start acting?
I was already like acting like 30s.
Wow.
Like 30s.
Okay.
Actually try to pursue it. So then I did that for a few years. Always loved stand-up, always respected stand-up, but it was super scary. It's always super scary, as you know.
But you were still working at the time that you were doing acting.
Yeah, once I started doing acting, I started navigating more to like kind of like freelance jobs, you know, flexible jobs, you know, like a bunch of odd jobs just to like, you know, be able to go to auditions and stuff like that.
Which is a struggle for most people.
Yes.
Because most people, like you're lucky, like you didn't ruin your life and have children, right? And or get married, right? Which for some people, that's what they want to do, and that's cool. It's a dumb decision, but some people want to do that, but you didn't do that. So you had the flexibility of taking part-time jobs or freelance work and doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those people who are out there who don't have those, you know, who do have the flexibility, you know, you can still work and do freelance, but also pursue the artistic side.
If you don't have any like major time commitments or family obligations, then yeah, that's you know. And then the way I ended up in stand-up comedy was kind of you know, after acting for a while, I was like, I always wanted to try stand-up, and then I went ahead and got like a master's degree. So then I was away for the arts for like 2 years while I was focusing on finishing the master's, just working. I was gonna go to South Korea to teach for like 2 years. That was my plan.
That was dope.
And
That's
then,
dope.
yeah, the whole process for that takes a bit. It takes like 6 months. Like you got to send fingerprints to FBI, and it's a long process and applications. And then while that process was going on,
you know, I'm sorry.
I thought I was gonna get arrested by sending my fingerprints.
No, it would be like, we got his fingerprint results. Let's send him to North Korea instead.
Yeah. So then during that time, I was like, yo, like I'm gonna take this like few months off while I graduated, got the master's. I'll take these few months off, and I'll either try to get back into acting or actually start like getting into stand-up. And I was like, if I don't do either, then that means like my artistic spirit is kind of dead, and I'll just go to South Korea and just become, you know, and just teach. And then I started doing the stand-up thing, started helping a friend of mine who had started a show, and Jerron. They had started a show, so I was helping them like market the show, promote the show, and then she started giving me like spots. And then that's kind of how I got into it. I almost like kind of in a way pushed her because she was telling me she was thinking, and I was like, yeah, do it. So I was living like vicariously through her. Like I wouldn't do it myself, but I was like, yeah, you got to do it. You should start a show.
you should start. You were cheerleading.
Yeah. You should start a stand-up show. Like, yeah, that's great. Oh my God, yes, do it. And then through that, you know, I'm grateful that she started that show, and I was able to like get my feet wet. And then it was like, oh shit, like I really enjoy this. Like it's like, you know, it's like a drug, as you know, when you do stand-up. And then I didn't go to Korea, and stayed doing stand-up, and that was how I ended up and been doing stand-up ever since.
Yeah, that's a good story. You know what's funny is that you said that you were cheerleading, which is Interesting, because that's kind of what we want to do. We want to cheerlead everybody who's out there who's fucking thinking of doing.
Right, yeah.
By the way, if you're thinking of doing stand up, don't, because actually, no. You know what? The cool thing about it, I love how we're laughing and making fun, but Max is not even paying attention.
Yeah, our producer's like,
I listen to a bunch of motherfuckers talk all the time. I don't need to hear you guys out. But no, so we want to. I had the realization that no, not too many people are not coming into comedy, right? Because the more people that come in, they have more shows, which means more opportunities for us to get on stage, because they're going to need people,
right?
And then I was talking to somebody the other day, and I forget who it was, but they were like, yeah, people are going to come into comedy, but then, we become friendly with them, and a lot of people fall off. Right, they don't continue.
I just had that conversation yesterday with Dan Carney. Like so many,
and then they become fans, right?
Yeah.
And then they become fans because they know you, and that's the whole thing about now building a fan base is kind of like, whoever can become a fan instantly. Yeah. Even if they did comedy before, they have that in and they know you and they're friendly with you, so they become fans as well instantly.
And that's similar to like pursuing anything. People eventually are gonna get on your, like, if it's a business thing, usually you go to networking events. I'm assuming you meet people that are in that same thing. You might meet other people that are also starting out this business, this dream, and you make these connect. And it's I think it's similar to the way we pursue comedy, right? You build this network of people that eventually they're going to also support you.
Right.
Even if your like friends won't, because it's like those people in this world, they'll understand like what your world is like.
Yeah. I think it's good that we have, by the way, the crew that puts this podcast together, you and I, Unusual Culprits. Shout out to the other members of the Unusual Culprits. It's good to have you guys in the group, right? Even though I'm not in the group chat. But it's good to have a group of guys that we came in at the same time. Mm-hmm. We get along well. We understand the struggle, because I talk about this all the time, is that, when you have a bad night, yeah, you can go home and your wife or your significant other can console you, but they don't understand the struggle, right? I can't, I can also bounce things off of you guys, but it's good to have people, no matter what industry you're in, to have, I know in the business world, they talk about mentors and mentees, right? But it's also good to have peers who are going through the same thing as you, and who you can bounce things off of, or who you can kind of bitch and complain to, right? About a bad set, or, because we've all been through the same thing,
right?
And not very many people have that same experience. So we're going through the same experience at the same time. We've been doing comedy around the same time, but we also understand one another. So that's good to have. And it keeps us going, right? Because every week one of us wants to quit.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Literally, like really every week, every bad show, we're like, why am I doing this? Every time, it was raining outside, it was pouring, we're trying to do this podcast. And I'm like, why is it that every time we try to do something?
Right. Something always like, goes to shit.
Yeah.
It's like the gods don't want us to
they don't want us to succeed, but
they don't want us to make this podcast.
But we pursue anyway. Yeah. And shout out to Stand Up New York Labs for hosting us in this beautiful space.
Yeah. All right, we want to get, before we run out of time, get into your story, how you got into it, but also I'm going to read like a kind of some data. All right, so this is according to Inc.com. I think it's some dude, Peter Economy, wrote this. But 60% of us make New Year's resolutions each year. Sadly, only about 8% of us achieve them. So that's a very interesting and almost sad statistic. 60% make. So only 60% actually make a plan. Like, yo, I'm going to do something. I'm going to lose weight.
And those are New Year's resolutions.
Right. Just New Year's resolution.
Right.
I'm going to start. And then from that 60% that actually like give it a try, then from that, only 8% like actually achieve them. Like they like stick to them. And that's probably like just a New Year's resolution. Maybe it's a 1 year thing. And only 8% of those, of that 60%, only 8% actually like stick to it.
Wow.
So that's
and some of us have been making New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, dude, I have some New Year's resolutions that I've been making for like 30 years, and I've never. I don't even know at this point. Like, should I like even write anything down at this point? But yeah, you keep making excuses in your head, and at this point, I'm making that same excuse, like, oh, I'm too old to like get into this now.
Right,
I'm
right.
I'm too old to like take some time to learn the guitar.
Yeah.
That I've always wanted to learn the guitar.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the mind.
But at least you know what you want to put your time to, and with that, it's kind of like 60%. Only 60% of people. That means 40% of the people don't give a fuck that it's.
They don't even try. Yeah, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They're like, fuck this. Like, I'll stay in my same situation.
They're happy with their situation. So 40%.
Some are not happy though. Not everybody's happy.
Right.
Some are just like, fuck it. I'll just go through the motions, and I'll die, and that's it.
Yeah. And 8% of those people only follow through, which means that they either have easy resolutions or they're really, ahead of everybody else. Yeah. But I don't think I make resolutions anymore because I'm like, okay, every day is a new day to start something new. And I don't see the years passing as a new time. I see the days passing as a new time.
That's a good mindset to have and to like flip your brain, because you put all this pressure on New Year's resolutions, and that's an easy way to.
I'm gonna wait till the new year. I'm gonna wait till Monday. Start that shit today.
Start it today.
Start it right now. Whatever.
Write it in your
that
calendar. Whatever it is you want to do, make a note. Like I'm gonna start doing whatever it is I'm gonna do. So Lee, let's take a little bit about your journey. Your journey's different from mine because you were already like married. You had marriage, house, like kids.
Yeah.
So you even have like less of a reason to actually pursue it because you have a bunch of like things that could be excuses.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like when you got the urge to try to go into stand-up comedy and like actually pursue it, and what things were keeping you from actually getting into it earlier.
Yeah. So my story is a little bit different, like you said, in that I was already married. I already had children. And I was already in my career. So I was working a good job. And shout out to one of my brothers, Mike. He wanted to write a movie, right? So I'm the type of dude where if you're like, yo, let's do something, I'm like, all right, I'm down. Let's go rob this bank. All right, I'm down. You know what I'm saying? Like anything, I'm down for my boys, whatever it is. So he was like, I want to write a movie. And I was like, bet. So he wanted to take this. He wanted to sign up to take this writing class. He gave me the details. I signed up. He didn't. And a year later, I decided to, pursue it. Right. I was like, I have, this thing out there. I've already paid for it. Might as well use it. So a whole year later, I took this writing class, and I didn't really know what it was. It was a comedy writing class, and it turned out to be a good experience. So at the end, you get to do a show.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with those type of. But did you? Was this something like you had thought of doing or getting into stand up, or you just like went on a whim because he was doing it? And you were like, let me try it.
I had no idea. Wow. I had no idea. I didn't even know that it was stand up, right, until I got there. And I had never thought about doing stand-up, right? I had been to comedy shows and I had, known some comedians. Actually, it's funny. Yesterday I was talking about this. There's a comedian who's a producer who's, does bringer talent, right? He produces bringer shows and stuff like that. Has been doing it. I went to his first comedy show back in the day in like 1994.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's a touring comic now and all that stuff. But that was kind of like, it's funny to still see him.
Then that was before Max was born. That's why Max is like, these motherfuckers. These are some old ass motherfuckers.
94 is when he was born. Holy shit, I got kids
like,
older
these dinosaurs. He's looking at us like T-Rex, like,
motherfuckers. He was a tickle in his daddy's nutsack in 94. No, but yeah, so was it 94? No, it wasn't 94. It was actually 2004. I'm sorry. You're already born. So it was 2004, I think, that I saw his first show. Anyway, so yeah, I had no idea. But I had prior performing experiences because I was in a rap group before. Mm-hmm. And we came really close to making it, and I fucked it up because I had a kid at that time. Oh, okay. And I was, it's funny because I'm seeing similar things happening, like that happened at that time. Like I was more focused on, all right, I got to raise my kid. I got to go get this job. I got to get my shit in order. I got to get my shit together. So that fell through the wayside. And I spoke to one of the old members of the group recently, or one of the guys who we came up with and was kind of like managing us a little bit. And he said, yeah, the guys in the group were mad at you because we had a chance to make it, to sign. And there are some who we were coming in with at that time, they're fucking multi-platinum artists and shit like that.
Wow.
And yeah, award-winning artists. And I kind of fucked that up for them.
And it feels like you're fucking up on.
I feel like I'm fucking up.
Unusual culprits. You're doing part 2 of this.
I'm like, I'm taking the whole shit down again. So yeah, so I had prior performing experience. So the stand-up thing, at the end of the 6 weeks or whatever it was that we did the writing and the stand-up stuff, it ended in a graduation show, as most people do. And from there, I kind of caught the bug. But I went through it through the wrong route. And I don't want to get into the stand-up part of it, but I was going through a divorce at that time, which was really tough. And I was in debt a whole lot. And even though I had my career going, I was in the middle of changing jobs because I was unhappy with my job. So at that time, my whole life was changing, you know. So I said the comedy thing was kind of my outlet. But it gave me something to do to kind of keep my mind off of all the changes that were going on in my life, right? So comedy was kind of like that outlet, and it gave me something to focus on. So like in 2015, I started doing mics right here at Stand Up New York, right downstairs.
I started too.
And then it just became something that was like a daily thing. It just became something that we just did. And once you catch the bug, or you hear people laughing at something that you said, you get a rush that is indescribable. So I had started many businesses before and failed at most of them, if not all of them. Some of them were semi-successful, and success is, you know, objective. But so I had done all of these things and never done anything to completion. So this comedy journey is kind of like a culmination of all of those things that have not ever started. And now I have the flexibility where, you know, I manage my time with my son. You know, I let my wife know now that, you know, she's comfortable with me doing comedy and all that stuff. So I've been able to add it to my life. It's just become a thing that I do. It's like going to the gym for me, right? It's like something that's a part of your life that you have to do. You know, and it's been great, man. But yeah, I still have a career. You know, I still manage my time with my son, and, you know, I manage the spousal time. So there's really no excuse, man.
Right.
There's really no excuse.
When I first got into comedy, it affected like a relationship I had at the time because I was like starting comedy, and I was into this relation, and I didn't know how to like manage it because I was similar to you in that I had started things and always like never followed them to completion. Some were semi-successful things that didn't pan out, but I never. So then when I started and I got this rush of comedy, and I was always afraid, like, oh my God, like it's gonna go away, or I'm gonna get too old. So I didn't put like time into a relationship, and my relationship at that time like crumbled. I didn't know how to manage like both comedy and a relationship.
Because it's tough.
Because it is tough. You know, you got to get up, you got to do the mics, you got to do the open mics. Sometimes you're getting home late, you're tired, and it's like, no, I was like I was at a bar, and there was no girls there. I promise you, it was like 3 drunk and a crackhead, and they. I promise you, there was no girls there. It's not as glamorous as people think it is. It's like these packed shows on the weekends, and everybody's having fun, and everybody, you know, after the show, everybody's like, "Oh my God, you know."
Yeah, that's the thing about having a partner who's understanding, you know. And we kind of shit on, and this is a different topic, but we kind of shit on like comedy relationships. And we've probably had this conversation before, but those relationships are good because that person understands.
Yeah, they understand the craziness.
Right. So if you're in a relationship with someone who's understanding, it's great. But if you're in a relationship with someone who understands the business or who's in the business, that's also great because, you know, you can spend time together, but you can also know that, this person is actually out working, and you know how difficult it is. And and stressful it is to do comedy.
And I guess like going back into the whole dream, because it's not just for comedy. We're trying to apply this to everybody. Like if you have a partner, I guess, and you're starting something new, maybe bring that partner up to something, a networking event, and so they see what that world is. And I think I didn't do that. The relationship that I had at the time when I was starting comedy that failed, it was like I wasn't doing a lot of that. Because she wanted to come out, but I was like, oh no, you're not gonna like, because it's like open mics, like they suck. There's no trust me. Right. And I would never like make.
You don't want to turn that person off to it.
Exactly. And I was like, no, I don't want you to see. And then I'm always very self-conscious of me like performing. Like I want to be like almost as perfect as I can be before I get to that. All right. So we're almost at time, but before we get to, you mentioned one thing. You started here at Stand Up New York. This is actually a comedy club, although you can't tell. This is a separate room they have for podcasting, but they have an actual stage. It's a good club. That's also part of the thing of your journey of whatever you choose, that you're gonna start meeting being mind like people that are in the
Like-minded
same
people, yeah.
wavelength and or thinking like you or have the same aspirations. Like that's how me and Lee met. We met at the open mic here.
Yeah.
Like we had started out around the same time. And I think a lot of the people in our crew, the Unusual Culprits that we formed,
Yeah.
we all met here at
We all
Stand Up
met
New
here,
York because we
yeah.
all started doing open mics here.
Yeah.
Cool. So as we move on, so that was our stories. I want to share something, right? So this is an article, and I gotta find it, which is about doubt, right?
Shout out to Above the Rest Bakery in the Bronx, by the way. I'm giving shout outs on the podcast already. They hooked us up with the delicious apple pie.
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying?
Can't wait to get some of that.
I had the apple pie la mode. That's my thing, B. Apple pie la mode. I put the ice cream and the whipped cream. I'm a fat boy, B. I went full fat boy yesterday.
Mess up my,
but it was good. Max, it was good. Good apple pie. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So shout
awesome.
out to them.
Cool. All right. So this is an article from it's actually an article from Prime Women, believe it or not. Prime Women is the article, and this article is about how we kind of let doubt, especially as you get older, like keep you from achieving the things you want to achieve. And I'm trying to find the article.
Yeah,
right
at a younger age, you probably get into things and be like, and Max, I don't know how it is for you, but at a younger age, you just don't know, or you just don't understand. You just have this belief that you can do all of these things, and you're like, I'm young. But when you get old and cynical and you have all this doubt and this life experience, it becomes way more difficult.
Yeah.
Overcoming the mental challenges
that's
is
super
way
difficult.
more difficult, because there's way more doubt, because you see younger, prettier people accomplishing all of these things, and you have to look in the mirror and you're like, I'm not any of those things. How can I? Right? But you have to overcome that doubt and put that belief in yourself that you can, right? And again, I always harp back on this because success is objective, like I said, just like comedy, but you don't have to be the most famous comedian or the best comedian or the best makeup artist or the most famous makeup artist. But if you're making a living doing it, that's success.
That's success, man.
So maybe you should adjust the level of what you view success as, no matter what it is that you're doing. And then it'll make it easier for you to just pursue that thing and just try to be the best that you can be at it, instead of putting all this extra added pressure on yourself.
Yeah. All right.
And go out there and achieve your shit.
That's true. All right. So this is the article. Finally found it. Tracy March from Prime Women magazine. Me and Lee read women's articles
on our spare time.
on our spare time. We're supportive. So you're not too old. Don't let age hold you back. So there are plenty of excuses that show up throughout our lives and threaten to keep us from doing and accomplishing all of the amazing things we wish we could. But when we reach a certain age, we begin to tell ourselves, I'm too old to do the things or create the changes we really want in our lives. And maybe it's because we feel that way because we see others our age allowing their ambitions to kind of fade away. They're looking back and we're just thinking about what might have been and just settling for the idea that there were things that just weren't meant to happen in their lives, meaning our lives, so they're just winding down and strolling slowly towards the exit. But the truth is we all have a lot of time left. And so with the advantages, right, of becoming older is like you have a little more wisdom, you have more life experience, right, that could help you. That's one of the advantages. And you usually, because we're older, we'll probably have a little bit more resources to invest. Maybe not in time, but probably financially and things of that nature, right? So yeah, we have this amazing potential to make this amazing time in our lives. So so don't make excuses. There's another article, if you read the whole article, about doubt and fear. The I'm too old for excuse is really a clever disguise for doubt, which keeps us stuck.
Right.
It prevents us from taking risks and doing the things that we really can do and want to do. We use it as a shield to protect ourselves from fear and failure ahead of time.
Yeah.
We use doubt as a shield to protect ourselves from fear and failure ahead of time.
Yeah. That's tough, man. That's tough. And it's a protection. And that's the thing that you have to overcome is that doubt and that fear in your mind.
Yeah, because you don't want to fail. You don't want to then go back to your friends after you told them like, oh, I'm doing like, oh, what, because everybody's going to ask, oh, how's it how's the thing going? The little coffee making thing. Like,
Right.
and you're like,
They come at you with how's that thing that you're doing?
yeah, and you're like,
Fuck them. Get new friends, B.
yeah, get new friends.
Anyway, man, this was a good episode. Thank you for listening, man. Check us out on Unusual Culprits. Follow us at Unusual Culprits on all the channels, IG,
social
Twitter,
media. Yep,
social
yep.
media. You can watch this podcast on YouTube. It'll be up there soon. And why don't you take us away with something, man?
Yeah, man. Follow us on the social media channels. This podcast is also going to be on all the podcasting platforms. Apple, what is it called, Max? iTunes?
Yeah, iTunes, Spotify.
iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Exactly what Max said. We'll be there. So yeah, just follow us. We'll keep bringing more guests from. A lot of them are probably going to be. A few are going to be comedians because that's the people we know in our world that started late in life. But then we're also going to bring some entrepreneurs. And if you know any entrepreneurs that are in New York City, somebody that started something late and they're doing it, they're making it. It could be, doesn't have to be comedy, business, anything. Send us an email, unusualculprits@gmail.com, and we'll reach out and hopefully we'll see them on the show and they can provide inspiration to somebody else who might have something that they're thinking of doing and they just keep putting it off. Now's the time. Let's just make it happen.
Yeah. And remember this, the limit is only in your mind, right? So don't limit yourself. Do what it is that you want. Start today and don't give up. You're never too old. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Thank y'all.
Remember, it's never too late.